wherever you may be joining me. For those of you who are joining live, apologies for being late. It's been a bit of a busy morning and then technical difficulties. But we're here now. We're ready to go with month 9 of the Quilters Playcation Adventure Sewalong. I'm so excited. We're making great progress. Our treasure map is almost done. Today is all about where the treasure is hidden. And it's hidden, oops, backwards. It's hidden in a cave. So we're going super simple with this block. Get to play around with color, creating depth in this. We're going to do all of that today because our getting to the end, we've got to be finding our treasure here soon. So that is what we're doing, is we are creating a cave block. I don't have the print version all up on my design wall because I didn't want to take down this particular project, just as an update. Sidebar, almost done my Scandi Village quilt. We have a party coming up in 10 days on the Quilters Playcation. We are doing a party to make the Scandi Village quilt again. It's one of my most popular. Excited to bring it back, and I will have the finished quilt for that in there. And so I'm almost done. So it's still up on the design wall just to finish that last part. But check it out. Woo! Check out my messy sewing room as I move that. I wanted to point out this. I last night started sewing the rows together from our abstract solid version that we have for the Quilters Playcation Adventure Sewalong in 2023 here. So I added my X block. That's X from last month. X marks the spot, and all the previous months. So it's coming together. I will put on today's block because I'm going to show you, I'm going to make the block with the abstract version today because I only need one cave. I'm only having treasure hidden in one part on my island, but we'll talk about both the abstract and the regular way. It's the exact same technique for both of them, so that's what we're going to do today. But I just wanted to showcase that. It is a bit dark in here. We'll see. I might turn on the light when we come over to the sewing table here, but I don't generally like to have the lights on for these because it just changes things, that sort of thing. So welcome. Glad you are here. Let's get to sewing. What do we need today? Typical sewing supplies. To make our print version, the more literal version, you're going to want some background fabric, right? Whatever background you've been using for everything else, so that the cave is kind of in the background of, or placed within the background of it. So pick one of your background blocks, and then you're going to want dark colors, right? Caves are dark and foreboding, and then just from a visual point of view, you want it to kind of be coming away, you know, receding into the quilt, as the case may be. So you can see with mine, I chose dark colors. I chose this black on black print, and then a slightly lighter print, so the black with the gray, and then a gray. And this created kind of layers, you know, like an entryway into the cave. You can go just straight one curve into the cave, all good, make your life easy, no problem, but it's not a hard block. It's really not a hard block either way. So you can see, I'm going to come close, right? We have the 3 layers of curves and then into the background block. We start from the inside and go out, not out in. I find this technique to be much easier when we're doing sort of this larger curve, to kind of build it up as opposed to try to make it smaller. So pretty easy. I actually used scraps, and so my cave is as big as my scraps were. Pretty straightforward. And it's the same technique for each one of them as you go. So let's move over here I'm going to bring you, I should be able to unplug. Part of my technical issues is that my phone was dead. So I'm going to bring you over here. I am going to flip you around. If it works. There we go. There's my lovely ladies this morning. And then down here on the cutting table. Right, we're here for the cutting table. So I've chosen for my abstract version here, I'm going to do my caves and kind of these two browns. And then the background is going to be this kind of, it's a purple. It's almost like a really dark mauve, I guess, would be more than anything. And I'm going to do blocks. So I'm just going to cut some pieces of fabric to work on a, I don't want to be working on on a strip, basically, for these. And I do have salvage, so I want to go ahead and cut that off. I always find it easier to cut off salvage before you start sewing. I know there's lots of sewers who don't, but then I find that there's a risk of getting caught out with it. So I've got a long strip. I'm just going to start with, one rectangle and then maybe two smaller ones. I'm going to demonstrate the technique a couple of times just so we can see it, and we'll go from there. So for my cave fabric, I actually want it to be slightly smaller. So I've actually got, this is too tall of a piece. So I'm going to cut that down to show you. You want it to be smaller width-wise than the piece you're putting it into, but you also don't need the height because you're going to end up trimming off a lot of this. But on our other piece, I just want to show you, I've kept these. See, this is what I meant. I literally used a scrap. It's all kind of weirdly cut in there. The black that I cut out was here. And so I don't need to have a piece where they're equal sizes because I'm not going to use the top part of what this cave piece is. So you can see that because there's my waste from cutting it. I had all of this extra bit on there. What was in here is what was inside the next layer as we went. So here you can see, this is the opposite of my initial cave. There we go. Right, that's the opposite of it because I have the black on the inside. As you can see here, the black one on the inside. So you just don't need a lot of extra fabric in there. You can work with what you have, like I did with this scrap there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to work with these two pieces of fabric. I'm going to overlap them. I like to have them overlapping and kind of extending out here at the bottom. You can just see is there. And then all we're going to do is we're going to cut a curve like this. If you're right-handed, you can hold it up and cut your curve this way. Whatever way feels comfortable. If you're left-handed, it would be that way. Just in a way that doesn't have you, kind of cutting towards yourself too much. And we're cutting almost a half circle. Don't fuss about it being a perfect half circle or anything like that. But we are kind of cutting that curve. So we're going to go up and then down in there. So that's what I'm going to do. I have my fabrics layered right sides up. And then I'm cutting through both of the fabrics, separate them. I don't need this piece anymore. If you wanted, you could get, I could go very abstract actually and kind of alternate some of these. Ooh, let's not dismiss that idea just yet. It is my abstract one, but this is what I want to sew together. So we cut right sides together, but we sew, or we cut right sides up, we sew right sides together. So like any other curve, I like to have the concave on the bottom and then the convex. I'm not going to pin, I'm not going to glue, I'm not going to baste, none of that. Easy curves, right? I'm only going to start here. I'm going to start up here and I'm going to worry about 1 inch at a time. Is this a little more finicky than the quarter circles that you may have done? Yes, absolutely. But just go slow. If you have a smaller piece, like this is, 6 inches-ish, but even on a bigger piece, this is a good time to reduce your stitch length. Sort of the sharper the curve, if you reduce your stitch length on your machine, you're going to have a little bit of an easier time sewing that because it's not taking as big chunks as you go. I'm going to move you over to see the machine here. So I have my machine set. I reduced my stitch length. You can't see that up here. And remember, we don't have seam allowances in what we cut, so it's kind of overlapping or underlapping. Is underlapping a word? I don't know. And also bear with me because I forgot my glasses and I don't seem to have a pair in here. Have your machine ready to go with the needle stopping down. And we're just going to continue on through there. I'm only worrying about what's in front of the needle a little bit at a time. Trying not to stretch or pull, stopping and pivoting as necessary, right? You don't want to do super sharp pivots. It's better to do a few stitches, stop, adjust, and go, as opposed to really sharp pivots, because that's when you'll get points. Okay, I think that's going to be one more adjustment, and then it should flow for the rest of it. Okay, that is our first curve. Pretty straightforward, kind of looks a bit awkward and messy there. That is what pressing is for. See? Oh no, that's just, I thought I had a pivot point, but it's just a pressing requirement there. So let's move over to pressing. Go here, another one of my brown fabrics there. So pressing. I think from a design point of view, I want to press towards the background. This is one of the ones where I'm going to force it to go the way I want it to go. It really does, in my case today, want to go towards the cave as opposed to the background, but I want it to go the other way. So I'm forcing the issue. So with a hot iron, I like mine with steam. I'm going to go ahead and you'll see I kind of went in with the tip and just pressed it down with the tip, and then I'm going in with the whole iron to get there. So it didn't really want to lay flat, but it is now. If you really want extra help, flatter pressing spray is your best friend. It will help you get out kind of any wrinkles and any going. I'm using my wool pressing mat, and what I have found is, particularly with smaller pieces, but we often say in quilting that you want to press, not iron. But with a wool pressing mat, the piece sticks to it when it's a smaller piece, and then I can iron without fear that it's getting pulled and stretched out into oblivion. So there is my one bit, right? My one cave. If we are doing this block, right? I've done my first two here, and then I did another one, and then the background. It's just a matter of repeating the process. So I'll demonstrate it with this one. I just dropped the cave block behind my sewing table. That's great, which means we won't see it again for the rest of this. So here's a bigger piece here. If I want to do another layer, I'm going to go, I've got corners missing from both of those. If I want to do another layer, I'm going to have a rectangle. That's bigger, right? I even have this corner cut up. have this corner cut off on the rectangle, whatever, it's fine. I'll just move this over a little bit. So I'm going to layer my pieces right sides up again. Right? They're solids, so it really doesn't matter. Right sides up again, and then I'm going to go ahead and do another cut. Now, here's the thing. If you want, and now I can't show you my other block, but if you want this second layer fabric to kind of be down here at the bottom so that you have the cave and then the bottom and the cave and the initial cave and then the next layer down at the bottom, you see, I would need more purple. Otherwise, I'm going to have to kind of come right at this spot. Let's zoom in a little bit. What I'm talking about is here, right? I'm going to have to come in here with my first cut so that my second layer comes all the way down. Otherwise, I'm going to be, you know, making a cut here, and I'm not going to have any of that second layer. So you always want to make sure that when you're going to be adding on, you have enough to kind of come down to the bottom. Design-wise, it's not necessary. You can play around with that, that maybe it doesn't do that. But if you want it the way that I did my initial one, then that's what you're going to want to do. So I am going to go ahead and do another layer here just to show you what I mean. So I'm going to go here and cut, and then over here I'm going to have to come in quite sharply here. But I'm going to have fun. I don't want to necessarily echo the exact, you know, this thing. I was narrower on the sides and higher on the top, on the top, just for fun, right? Change it up. On my other one, you know, I had thicker on this side, thinner on that side, and then switch that on the opposite one. You can play around with that sort of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead, and now it's the exact same process for sewing, right? I don't need that piece, but I'm going to go ahead, add that there. I'm going to go ahead and sew those together. Show you at the machine again. There we go. So I only worry about lining up at the beginning and then just kind of as I go. Remember, we're sewing with a slightly shorter stitch length, making adjustments. Kind of at the apex of the curve is when you're probably going to have to make a few more small adjustments. Just that the sharper that curve is, the more you might have to make some adjustments. It's all good. Now I'm gonna get there because I have seam allowance here that I don't want to catch. I want it to go in the right direction. Okay, and then a little spider on the end. And then I have my second layer. So let's give that a good press. Like before, it's going to want to press, in my case, well, kind of half wants to press out and half wants to press in, but I'm making it go out. So I'm using the iron to get into the tip, or using the tip of the iron, I should say. My words are failing me today. To get that where I want it to be. See, I haven't worried about all this other stuff. It's still not laying flat. I'm worrying about just where the seam is at the moment. And then once I'm happy with that, I can go out. Okay? Just like that. Again, you can use flatter. Now I'm just going to go ahead and say this. You may have extra wrinkles, right? It may not look perfectly smooth and flat to you, and you'll be sorely tempted to say, this failed, or I need to do it again. Don't worry about those wrinkles, right? I have a few wrinkles here, like that. Once this is sewn into a quilt and basted and then quilted, those are going to disappear. You're not going to see them, so don't stress about them. Okay, So there you can see a cave block. Now, at some point, you gotta square this up, right? We have not done any of our cutting or trimming or anything like that, paying attention to grain lines, and that's fine. What I want to do is I want to maximize the size of my cave, so I'm going to square it up based on this bottom here. So I'm getting my ruler because I was too tall for the skinny one I have here. And I'm going to adjust it, and I'm going to line it up here on the bottom where it can be. So I'm going to go right about there. I want to maximize what I can cut from here. I'm going to hold my ruler down, that sort of hang loose position that I've talked about before. We're going to go up. I'm right-handed, so I'm starting on the right and going up and across. Right, so I have two nice cuts. Then I'm going to flip that over, and I'm going to make this just as big as I can. Right, and I'm going to repeat the process. Hold that, and then go from there. And I have a cave block. Right? Pretty straightforward. Don't worry about any little wrinkles like this. They will come out. You don't have to stress about this. Now this block, nice and flat, laying smooth, right? I'm going to have to play around with how I put together for my next ones, but you can see that this is just a really straightforward technique. Now here's your out. If it is stressing you out, or you're really not happy with your results, or it's frustrating, I get it. With this sort of half circle idea, just break this down into quarter circles and do one block with quarter circles and play with it, and another, and then sew them together without worrying about whether they match in the middle. This is improv and play. We can have those kind of come together in different ways, and it's totally cool. Okay, so you can play around with either this half circle sort of idea, these arcs, maybe we'll call them, or you can go and just do quarter circles because those are easy, straightforward, and super comfortable. But don't be afraid to kind of push yourself with your play, right? Run a little harder, try that piece of equipment that's a little bit taller, master the monkey bars for the first time. Whatever it is, we're playing. We want to figure out sort of how that can come to be. I'm going to bring you back to me. Hello. And we'll do that there. I just want to thank you. This has been fantastic, as always, making our cave blocks. We're going to add this cave somewhere there on our, that down a little bit. It's going to be added in with a few more blocks, and that will continue on with our Quilters Playcation Adventure Sewalong treasure map, the abstract version. And then we're going to come back next month and make the last block the actual treasure, because that's important. What's a treasure map without the treasure, right? Seems kind of silly to not have the treasure. So that's what we're going to work on next month to finish off our treasure map. We'll probably connect at some other point too as I put my quilt together. This one will be done shortly after the next month because the rows are just super easy to sew together. I spent time last night getting most of them together, so I'll add the bottom two here on, and we'll have a great time. Life is going okay for me. Busy. Everybody's back at training. My son is still struggling with his long COVID, which is not fun. But we're making it, and we're having fun, and we're bonding as a family, and just, I'm not going to complain, because why? What's the point? It's just whining. And then remember, November 18th, you can still sign up for the Quilters Playcation Adventure Sewalong. Quilters Playcation Party, Scandi Village Party, where we're going to be learning how to make 4 different Scandi Village blocks. We're going to be making a regular house, a regular tree, the gnome, and then where do I have? An A-frame cabin there. Those will all be part of the Scandi Village Party on November 18th. Otherwise, we will see you back here the first Tuesday of December for the final month in the 2023 Quilters Playcation Adventure Sewalong. I'm so excited that you've been here with me this whole time. Can't wait to wrap it up with you and see what you've played with all year. Whether you have 1 block, no blocks, or all 10, we're happy to have you here, happy to have you along for the adventure. And I always encourage you to get out there and play as much as you can. All right, everybody, take care. Bye-bye.